Spain, 1454, King Enrico IV of Castile, who was Isabella's older brother, due to his inability to produce offspring, officially proclaimed her heir to the throne in 1468. So Queen Isabella of Castile was also known as Isabella the Catholic, Queen of Castile and Leon. She can be compared to Catherine II and Peter I, Russian czars rolled into one. Thanks to her, a single and strong state began to exist on the world map, which we now know as modern Spain. Her strong marriage to Ferdinand of Aragon, who was her second cousin, led to the unification of Castile and Aragon into one kingdom, from which began the strengthening and counting of the reign of the kings of Spain. Isabella, the daughter of Juan II, King of Castile, and his second wife Isabella of Portugal, was not prepared to rule the country, so she did not receive a proper education and spent her childhood far from the palace. But fate and history decreed otherwise for her future. At the age of 18, she secretly married Ferdinand of Aragon, and only at 23, she ascended the throne of Castile and Leon, which was in decline after the death of her elder and childless brother Enrique IV, and within 2 years she had implemented the most important financial and administrative reforms. She created the first police force in Europe, a number of laws that reliably protected the interests of Spanish subjects, and established discipline at court. In the epochal year of 1492, Isabella did the main thing for the future of Spain. She led the Spanish kingdom to its final liberation from the Arab Caliphate, completing the Reconquista, which lasted 7 centuries. Isabella proclaimed herself queen on December 13, 1475 in Segovia, and Juana's supporters rose up in defense of her rights, thus beginning a civil strife in which the King of Portugal, Afonso IV, the uncle of Juana Beltraneja, intervened, whom he took as his wife, as a basis for his claims to Castile and the restoration of the legitimate queen, Juana, to its throne. But this marriage was subsequently annulled by the Pope due to close kinship. At the time of Isabella's proclamation as queen, Ferdinand was in Aragon and was proclaimed only as the legitimate husband of the queen, and not as king. This greatly offended him and put their marriage in jeopardy. By signing the Treaty of Segovia between the spouses, the issue of powers in the Kingdom of Castile was settled, and Ferdinand became co-king with his wife, receiving broad powers. The Cortes decreed that the government of the state should belong exclusively to Isabella, that Ferdinand could participate in it only as her representative, that acts of appointment to office and pronouncement of judicial sentences should be made in the name of both spouses, that their names should be minted on coins, but the treasury and army of Castile and Leon should be at the exclusive disposal of Isabella. Nevertheless, both kingdoms continued to maintain autonomy. Their institutions of power, as well as other social and economic structures, were completely separate. In Castile and Aragon, they even spoke different languages. First of all, they suppressed the ongoing civil strife over the succession to the throne, which was complicated by the invasion of Castile by the Portuguese king Afonso V, who supported the rights of his niece and at the same time wife, Juana Beltraneja. This struggle lasted until October 1479. The Pope's message, in which he annulled the permission he had previously granted for the marriage of Afonso and Juana, finally undermined the claims of the pretenders to the throne of Castile. In addition, seeing the futility of attempts to advance in Castile at all, and having been twice repelled by Castilian troops loyal to Isabella, Afonso V decided to make peace and renounce his claims to the Castilian throne. Isabella was known for her intelligence, energy, unyielding character, was distinguished by her tenacity, fear of God, and arrogance. Strong and strong-willed, Isabella was self-educated. She spent time either on campaigns, where, sitting on a horse, she often commanded troops herself, or in her office, where, together with her secretaries, she was engaged in reading and composing state papers. Embroidery remained her favorite pastime and rest from state affairs. In the appearance of the queen, greenish-blue eyes, characteristic of the Trastamara dynasty, stood out especially. Her complexion was delicate, her hair was golden, her height was short, and her physique was not particularly graceful. Nevertheless, it was noted that her appearance had an innate nobility and dignity. She became famous as a very God-fearing Catholic, whose reign will be remembered by descendants for the persecution of the Moors and Jews. Her goal was to cleanse Spain of pseudo-Christians, i.e., non-believers who were baptized only for the sake of appearances, to be executed or converted to Christianity, for which she received the nickname Isabella the Catholic. During her reign, the largest number of Jews left Spain. She was the one who created the Spanish Inquisition, which she headed together with her husband, fighting for religious unity within the country. In 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella ordered the creation of closed neighborhoods for non-believers, which were later called ghettos. This segregation, common at the time, also contributed to increasing pressure on Jews and Muslims through higher taxes and social restrictions. As a result, in 1492, according to the Alhambra decree, Spanish Jews were given 4 months by the kings to convert to Catholicism or leave Spain. 10,000 Jews emigrated from Spain to Portugal, North Africa, Italy, and the Ottoman Empire. Later, in 1492, Ferdinand wrote a letter to the Jews who had left Castile and Aragon, inviting them to return to Spain if and only if they became Christians. During her eventful reign of almost 30 years, Isabella succeeded in raising the royal power of Castile to an unprecedented height. The arbitrariness of the Castilian grandees and the independence of the cities were severely curtailed by the introduction of the Hermandad. The Cortes increasingly lost their independence and were subordinated to royal absolutism. The same fate befell the 3 spiritual knightly orders of Castile, after Isabella made her husband their Grand Master. In religious matters, Isabella sought to limit the dependence of the Castilian Church on the Roman Curia and to subordinate it even more to royal authority. With the light hand of Isabella, the Castilian language, the one that is now studied all over the world and is considered the standard of the Spanish language, became the main language of Spain. She collected a unique library and approved the printing of books and drama. Not without her patronage, Christopher Columbus discovered America, which began the global expansion of Spanish culture beyond the Spanish kingdom. Isabella died early by modern standards, at the age of 53. Her ashes rest in the Cathedral of Granada, the city that was the last to be liberated by Isabella from the Caliphate, and which preserves her glory as a liberator. More than half a millennium has passed since that moment, but for modern Spaniards, the Catholic kings, that is what Isabella and Ferdinand were called, are an object of worship for their true service to the Catholic faith and devotion to Spain.